So I've been really busy juggling story submissions, game design, and my work at the Book Warehouse, Hoosier Books and Media. It's a lovely place, by the way. Those of you in the area should totally support it. So I wanted to film today a short little video about me just kind of rambling a little bit about some concepts that I've been ruminating on, shall we say, in my free time these past few weeks, such as monsters. Specifically, weird monsters, and monsters that don't quite fit one mold or another. I love, as much as the next guy, good old werewolves and vampires, and I honestly think that I can appreciate as much as anyone else how they can be immediately terrifying, like dangerous and threatening to characters. Especially something like a vampire who is often nerfed in terms of how powerful they are compared to, say, our boy Bram Stoker's Dracula. It's not even funny, really. Book accurate Dracula could walk around in the daylight, and he could transform into all kinds of animals, and he could even control the weather. He was roughly 20 times as strong as a strong man, which makes him about twice as strong as the nastiest gorilla. Um, and even so, we are familiar with the concept of Dracula. He is beyond threatening, but he's not quite as scary as other kinds of monsters. We know Dracula, we know werewolves, but when we first laid eyes upon, say, the xenomorph, we did not know what we were looking at. We still don't know what was going on with The Thing in John Carpenter's The Thing. And everyone's favorite frightened intellectual H.P. Lovecraft made the not knowing of a monster the whole point of his stories. There's power. There's power and fear in not knowing what a thing is, not knowing how to combat it and how to destroy it. That's why horror movies nowadays have been trying and, for the most part, failing to create some imaginative new twists on tried and true creatures, or trying to invent creatures wholesale. More often than not, they have failed. That's not to say that it's a foolhardy endeavor. Because I love werewolves and vampires, but I do think it's kind of folly to try and change them. Um, I don't necessarily think that's entirely respectful to the ages of lore to just make up things wholesale about them. But speaking of creatures being made up wholesale, um, I do appreciate how your Slendermans and your Pyramid Heads and your, well, just simple mans can be dangerous and terrifying by the not knowing of how to defeat them, their weaknesses, and what motivates them. That's kind of where things get interesting when stories play upon the horror of the unknowing mind, right? That's where you get a wide range of characters, from the Thing to the Joker, right? Where these creatures and characters terrify us because we don't know their weaknesses, we don't know their motivations, if they even have any. They cannot be reasoned with or bargained with. Sometimes they just want to watch the world burn. And then think of, for instance, the eternally twisted Cormac McCarthy, heralded as one of the greatest authors of all time, despite breaking every grammatical rule possible and committing a bit too much, in my opinion, to the whole everything is awful and sucks and life is misery thing. Um, Nevertheless, he gave us villains like one Anton Chigurh, who is this unstoppable force of terror, and who is just a guy. And yet he still manages to pale in comparison to the beast that is McCarthy's other famous villain, Judge Holden. I Full disclosure, I've never actually read Blood Meridian, but I will say this guy creeps me the hell out. I've read like one or two maybe little excerpts from that effing book in my entire life, and I was out, man. This character is a poet twisting people into committing heinous acts while also taking part in some of the worst atrocities in the world to date. And I think it's much more terrifying that we don't even know if he's a human or not. At least that's what I can tell from like what I know of the book, right? Is like there's this idea of like which is scarier, that a man is capable of these evil acts, these such evil acts as cannot be spoken about on YouTube, if you know what I mean, or is it scarier that God himself is capable of such terrible things, or the devil, or an angel, or the demiurge, or something? To be honest, the synopsis of Blood Meridian went a little bit over my head at the time. But, sometimes I think not knowing can be a little bit more fun than, say, what's going on with Blood Meridian, right? Like, I've never really been afraid of the Cthulhu mythos, for instance. And I think that's kind of part of the joy, part of why I like it, is that there's an element less of horror and more of discovery involved, of learning more and more about these really fascinating and admittedly horrible creatures, um, and these bizarre cults and magic rituals. And there's a lot of creativity that went into the Cthulhu mythos, and that's kind of why I like it. Just it's just fun for me, um, and I think it's that sort of spirit of discovery gets even better when you kind of circle back around to vampires, say, and you manage to succeed truly in making something old, a well respected folkloric creature, into something new. Um, and I know, dear viewers, you thought I'd go a whole video without talking about Nosferatu, but you were wrong. Uh, Count Orlok, especially in the latest Robert Eggers movie, is mostly accurate to the source material for vampires. And he manages still to be fresh and interesting and a little bit unknowable simply by virtue of the human race kind of collectively forgetting uh, some of the original powers of vampires, right? The Nosferatu. And that's very fun indeed, rediscovering these quirks and legends and peculiar little traits of a very familiar creature. Um, so yeah, this has been my TED Talk on the nature of monsters. Um, like and subscribe, and recommend me to your wealthy publisher friends. And remember, Lumen is listening. Wait, I mean, live long and prosper. Succumb to darkness. Drink your Ovaltine. Bye.